Also had enough concrete to do the landing pad.
It's Wednesday, and today is concrete day. Concrete day is always a little stressful. If you did all the preparation right, it actually goes pretty smoothly. But if you missed one little step, things can get really hectic in a hurry. No matter how smoothly the pour goes, it seems like you can always use an extra hand. All of us were running pretty much the whole time we were pouring. The process was pretty simple. We'd use the chute to dump as much concrete as we could in the columns. Then we'd use a concrete vibrator to settle the cement clear into the bottom of the columns and into all the nooks and crannies. Then using shovels, we'd shovel more concrete into the footers. Then once we had them full enough, then we'd move on to the next column. While we were doing that, my wife would be scooping up extra concrete and put it in low spots on the footers. Then we'd move back and forth. That's pretty much how the whole pour went. It actually went pretty quickly. The concrete driver was clearly experienced. He was great at reading our signals about when to add more concrete and when to give us a break so we could finish out the column we were working on. Then he'd move forward to where he needed to be, and then we would keep on going. When I was ordering concrete, one of my major fears was that I would end up half a yard too short. As a result, I ended up ordering 8 yards of concrete. My figures were that I would need somewhere around 7. I figured that extra yard would give me the buffer I needed. I tried to be prepared so that I would be able to use that extra concrete if needed. I had a spot for our landing pad that was ready to go just in case, and then also some deck blocks that I built forms for. We had enough concrete to fill all the columns and the footers, so now we started pouring my landing pad where the exit from the garage would be and heading towards the house. We had enough concrete to fill that, so then we headed towards the deck blocks. The concrete cost about $200 a yard plus delivery fee, so you don't want to waste anything. Deck blocks come in handy. Seems like you're always looking for some type of a foundational support as you build a house and continue to improve on your homestead. We filled up all the deck block forms I had, and concrete still kept coming out. We weren't quite exactly sure what we were going to do with this extra concrete, so I went and grabbed the skid steer. Figured that would give us at least a half a yard that I could put somewhere. We filled the bucket of the skid steer, and then the driver said there was still about another yard. This was way more concrete than we'd ever planned on. The problem was, we didn't have time to make a plan about what to do with all this extra concrete. The concrete that was in the forms and in the footers was setting fast, and we still had to get all the bolts put in the right place. While my buddy and other friend were smoothing off the concrete, I made some makeshift forms in the corner so we could pour a pad. I wasn't sure if we had enough concrete to fill it or not, but I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. This extra concrete wasn't doing us any favors. Once I got the form finished in the corner, then I used the bobcat to haul 5 loads of concrete into the forms. By our figures, that's about a yard and a half extra concrete that we weren't planning on. That's a lot of concrete. In the end, we were able to get all the concrete in the forms and footers smoothed and all the bolts in the right places. Like all things on concrete day, it was pretty stressful.
It's been a long but productive day. It was one of those days, culminating day. Put a lot of work into getting ready for the concrete. Concrete came today. Everything's poured. We'll see how well it turned out, but here's all the forms. Really won't know till we go to put it up, but I measured everything like 6 times, so it should be pretty close. But you never know till you actually go to assemble it. It was all square when we started this morning. Ran all sorts of lines. We ordered 8 yards of concrete. We got 10. So bonus pad. However, it's kind of a problem because we ended up scrambling trying to figure out what to do with this extra like yard and a half of concrete that we ended up with. Kind of threw us off our game of getting all the bolts placed and everything, getting everything cleaned up. And as you can tell, my wonderful concrete skills aren't that good. Spent a lot of time trying to get everything else done. This kind of had to wait. By the time it got to that point, everything was starting to dry up pretty quick. Did what we could, but in the end, build a little room back here. I'm thinking maybe a place to keep everything safe and dry when we're using the cabin. Right now, the cabin is kind of our storage area. So storage area and living area, while doable, not as awesome as you might think. We also had enough concrete to do the landing pad. This will go to our house eventually. Based on this, we can now kind of lay out our house. Hadn't planned on doing this, but we were set in case we hit extra concrete, and we did have extra concrete. So we did. In fact, we had so much concrete that I also made a dozen deck blocks. Basically, anytime you need a good foundation piece, you can do that. I had those built and ready to go. We used up pretty much, didn't waste too much concrete actually, considering we got like 2 extra yards. But it was made for an extra scramble. But that's about $400 of concrete that I got for free. So we'll take it.